So these are atmospheric cavitations that they don't really, in the mainstream media want you to gravitate toward what's causing all the wind anomalies. They just want to keep you focused on the temperature. They can't control the jet streams and cloud cells. That's not a good sell for a global tax. Hot temperatures are, provided they're in the correct place for the temperature stations, which we'll talk about when we come back from the break. Temperature stations are in parking lots now. Temperature stations are near outflows of air conditioning units without hot air blowing onto them. The temperature station markings where they are have given us false readings of heat islands, which have increased these temperatures. So you have to take this with a grain of salt, all these record temperatures that we're seeing. And thank you for joining me here for this hour right here on TV Uncensored. We're going to talk about global temperatures today. Runaway the hottest year ever on the planet. Supposedly in the last 125,000 years, but it's really difficult for me to believe that they understood the last interglacial when we can't even find any remains or archaeological relics from those that were alive during the last interglacial that had the same brain capacity and physiology as we do as humans. I mean, they had 10,000 years of warmth and they created nothing, and we can't find a single remnant of the last interglacial period of that society or civilization, yet we're supposed to know the entire temperature delta and spectrum of the last 125,000 years. See, that's just a whole, I wish you'd ask a couple questions about that right from that point alone. But let's get some crayons out and play with pretty colors. The greens and the blues are lost, so we're just stuck with reds and oranges. So I want to show you how they're carefully manipulating the mind of the reader. Because you have to realize today, people don't read, they skim. And the way these articles are written, the way you skim would give you the perception that we're in the hottest years ever here, or the hottest temperature ever. In the middle of summer, in the holidays, when you're having a barbecue at the hottest time of the day, in the summer with barbecues rolling, yeah, you're going to feel a little warmer. So they're going to tag on top of that, oh, it's hot, it's hot. Well, yeah, you're next to a barbecue and it's the middle of the day in the southeast U.S. What do you expect? I digress. Let's look at the map here. What do you see? Oranges, yellows. I see yellows down in Papua New Guinea, Central Africa, and Greenland. How does that make sense to me if they're talking about similar temperatures? Well, this article made the bevy of news. It was like one of the number one articles that just got pushed from here to Kingdom Come and back. Now, I search Al Jazeera because I like the Middle East news and different types of African news that I can find on there. But I was shocked that this was front and center there too, so I had to pull it as an example. You thought it might run on New York Times or Washington Compost or something, but in Al Jazeera, I thought that to be noteworthy. So the article says mapping the world's hottest temperatures. So if they're pushing world's hottest temperatures on you continuously as a news cycle for 7 straight days, oh wait, the flag month is gone. Now we're into July. So what do you think though? Okay, so June is flag month. What's July going to be? Oh, climate month. So what do you think August will be? Diet, don't eat month, eat insect month. Like each month of the year seems to have a segment with it. Seems to have its own narration or narrative built into the month. So heat is July. August is, eventually we'll figure it out. It'll probably be insect month at the end of this. Mapping the hottest temperatures around the world. And when you look at this, and the way they say at least 22 countries have recorded maximum temperatures of 50 Celsius or 122 Fahrenheit or above. And you read that and you go, oh my gosh, 100 and what? There are 22 places. Wow, the planet is really getting hot. Wow. And as a skimmer of the news, you would blow right through these first highest temperatures ever recorded. See, they're telling the truth on this. But when you look deeply at the map, most people aren't going to spend the time to dig in to look at every single number. They go, oh, 48 degrees, 55 in Tunisia. Oh, wait, that was in 1931. A surging national debt is bullish for gold. The debt ceiling drama ended with nominal budget cuts and a shiny new credit card with no limit for the federal government. The first business day after the U.S. Treasury increased our national debt by $350 billion. In 2010, the debt was $13 trillion and gold was $1,000 an ounce. 2020, $23 trillion is the debt and $1,500 an ounce. Today, $32 trillion and $2,000 an ounce. So now we have $1 trillion in interest payments annually and another $1 trillion on defense. Do you think spending's going to slow down? Bloomberg stated gold appears as a caged bull awaiting a catalyst, and the commercial real estate crisis appears to be that catalyst. It's no wonder Google searches for how to buy gold hit record levels in 2023. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Mention the Adapt 2030 channel. They're going to give you some great service. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver on qualifying rollovers. Also, Patriot Gold Group, Consumer Affairs top-rated IRA gold dealer 6 years in a row. Give them a call, 888-546-7020. And now on with the video. See how cleverly they've done this for the skimmers? They probably captured 80% of the people's, oh, it is the warmest ever, by doing this style of headline and insertion of graphics with the tiniest of fine print. 1913, North America Death Valley was 56 degrees Celsius, 134 Fahrenheit. Oh wait, 1913 is what I see on the map. And see, when you actually go down and read the article, instead of just with those super hot headlines and the way they've introduced it to you as over 50, over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, currently the highest officially registered temperature, 56 degrees Celsius, Death Valley, 1913. And then they go, oh, by the way, in Africa, it was 55 degrees in Tunisia in 1931. Now, how many people actually go and actually read the article through its depths? Not a lot. And this is the kind of captured journalism that we are witnessing today as an agenda to push forth, oh, it's so hot, we got to tax the globe. Well, you know, you got to ask yourself with a straight face here, if you increase global taxes, this is not good. Will it stop? How do they stop this? If it's even possibly stoppable, which my opinion it's not, it's a solar activity cycle, so you can't really stop that. And the Washington Compost, of course, following right on top of the same minutes of those same days with these articles here. 46 million people in the United States may have to be exposed to dangerous heat today. That was July 7th. And you look at it, oh, extreme caution, dangerous. And I'm thinking dangerous. Oh, let's see the map. Here's your map of danger. Wait, this is Southeast US. It's hot there every single summer. They don't call it the dog days of summer for nothing. Why do you think people sitting on the front porch swing, you know, trying to get a natural breeze, drinking iced tea? That just sprung up because what, global warming this year? It's been like that indefinitely in the Southeast US, and this map makes me laugh here of how they're trying to so push the agenda. That white that you're seeing from Minneapolis over to Denver and everything, that's below normal temperatures. Yet they're trying to convince you that it's all-time record heat, but half of this country they're referencing is at a below normal temperature state. See, this is the kind of, like I say, it's misleading journalism. The way they can get away with it now is they understand that you're in a Twitter phase of attention span. That's the only possible way that these types of headlines work. Is you probably skimmed it. I would have done the same thing if I was busy. Oh, 46, oh, it's going to be super hot today. Wow, there's people in danger. It's going to be da-da-da-da. And then maybe, or maybe not, I would have looked at the map. But the map was clear at the bottom of the article. So you're going to read through this much text, add, text, and then finally get to the map? Nope. You're going to read that and go scroll. Okay, done. There's nothing else there. And move on. This is how it's done today. Once you can dissect the way the journalism is running with it. And another thing, another point, okay, to take a look at here. They're not giving you the temperatures anymore. They're giving you the real feel, the heat index forecast. First and last. So your brain associates that. First, oh, look at the heat index today. It's going to be 110 in Philadelphia. But then later on, they'll go, well, actually, it's only going to be 92, but with the humidity, it's going to feel like 110. It's a real feel. And then just before they spin out on the end of the weather forecast, they go, remember, it's going to be 110 for the heat index, so be careful outside. And your brain remembers that. It's only going to be 110 in Philadelphia today. You can see how cleverly it's done. It is choreographed to the maximum across the planet in all news feeds to get you to think this way. They're morphing your mind into something that is half real, but it's not the full truth. You see how cleverly it's done. And I thought, all right, I've seen this in Knoxville happen many a time. I remember seeing one in Knoxville that was 110 degrees. And it shocked me. I was like, no way. I can't find the slide because it was just on one of these weather forecasts, and I should have screen grabbed it, but I didn't because I was just watching, didn't screen grab it. But here I found something very similar. 103 degrees in Knoxville, 102 in Oak Ridge and Lenore City, Tellico Plains, Spring City, 103 Fahrenheit. You're like, oh, that's about, it's the real feel. And they do the same thing here with WBIR. They lead right in. Oh, it's going to be the real feel index today. And then they finally go, well, it'll be about 92. But with the heat and humidity in the Southeast U.S. like it is every single summer, it's going to feel like it's over 100. And then they'll lead out with that same thing. Oh, yeah, remember, it's going to be a real feel. It's going to be super hot, 103 plus for those of you there. You're going to keep in mind and bring lots of water. And your brain gobbles this information up and remembers it exactly like this operation is moving forward on your brain to get you to constantly believe that heat in the summer is abnormal. That's the whole thing. Heat is always here during the summer. That's why they call it the summer. It's hot. Yet they're trying to convince you because a natural cycle that occurs every year that's hot in a hot time of the hottest time of the year, every year, is somehow abnormal because it's warm. It's hot in the summer. And see how it's cleverly done. I can't even go back to this. The psychological operation involved with this whole heat movement, especially in this month, they couldn't squeeze it in last month. Last month was a whole devotional thing for something else. This month, it's all about the heat. Maybe they'll run it into August, maybe not. But it looks like temperatures are going to start cooling immediately, and we're going to have cooler than normal temperatures heading into the fall, especially through August and September, both. But here you go. Monday was the hottest day for global average temperatures on record, ever recorded, ever. And if you dig in, I went through a bevy of the articles. A lot of them are talking about 125,000 year mark. And I'm like, you guys, whoever's being paid by the UN on their payroll has absolutely not mapped out. I don't know anybody that was alive 70,000 years ago to go ahead and do the temperature measurements. Yeah, you can use tree rings. Oh, sorry, those are kind of dated too. You know, you can't really go far that back with dendrochronology and try to dig into the tree rings. You could probably go a couple thousand years, but you're not going 10 or 20,000 years looking at tree rings. You know, ice cores, they show something very different as well. And those on the alpine lakes drilling down to see, well, you know, those are good for a few thousand years as well because those lakes change. They dry up, they change. So whatever kind of temperature, you know, proxy, something that's not the exact measured temperature, but other things that could determine temperature like rainfall and acidity in soils and how much water flowed down and how much gravel is deposited in places. Yeah, you can reconstruct it to a point. But you can't tell me that 9/100ths or 8/100ths of 1 degree can be detected somewhere 70,000 years ago in sediment. Doesn't work like that. Especially when they're trying to push everything else except ice core data set from GISP, which is the gold standard. It's a Greenland Ice Core project for those of you who want to check that out. They probably have the best temperature data set on the planet, but it doesn't jive with today's measurements, so it's been shelved for those of you who would like to take a look at GISP2 ice core data set. Used to be all the rage to talk about it until it started going divergent from what was shown in the hottest temperatures ever. So you can look at it yourself, but you're going to have to dig for the information. They've shelved that one because it didn't fit the narrative. So it's supposed to be 17.1 degrees Celsius, or 17.01, excuse me, 8/100ths or 9/100ths of 1 degree. And again, I don't know how they can be so precise when almost the entire planet has no temperature stations on them. To really get a precise data set from the global temperature, you would have to have a temperature station every square mile, or even more, every half of a square mile, you'd have to have another temperature station. And that would include ocean surface as well. You'd have to have a buoy out there every, you know, half a mile square to truly get the temperatures of the planet. There's nothing like that anywhere remotely close. They're trying to use satellites, but again, hottest temperatures, or is it reading between the lines? Because if you go to the Weather Observer's Handbook, which again was the gold standard for determining temperatures globally and with different temperature stations, you're supposed to do it over a 5-minute averaged period of time. So one or several cases, they only averaged the temperatures for 1 minute and declared it a new record of heat. But going back, they're like, you have to nullify that record because you only took a 1 minute or 1 second snapshot of that heat record, and you didn't determine it over the full 5 minutes of averaging on the temperatures. So that record is null and void. So how many times have they done this and nobody's called them or caught them yet? Those that are monitoring the temperature stations. Was it a full 5 minutes of average, or was it just a snapshot to prove and get more funding? Because those that toe the line receive more funding. Those that don't, funding cut, jobs cut, tenureship cut, university positions cut. And opportunities after that into gainful employment cut as well. Once you start going down this road, you don't come back professionally. So those who are still in it are the ones who have sold themselves for 20 years to get to this point and still retain those positions. I'll say it clear and simple like that. Follow the people they're trying to censor. That's where the true information lies. You want to talk about global records? Okay, let's talk about some global records here. Anybody from Utah? 13 out of the 15 resorts had their highest all-time record snowfalls ever recorded, ever. 13 out of 15 in Utah. 900 inches of snow. And the thing was, they were still, and the lifts weren't open for skiing, but people were walking up and snowboarding down with snow that is still left 8 feet deep July 4th weekend. Go figure. You want to talk about records? Okay. 10 out of the 15 resorts had their longest ski season ever. Over 200 days of skiing. Remember, there's only 365 days in a whole year. So 200 of those days plus were full of snow where you could ski. Now 135 days, that's only 5 months. So you're telling me that snow was July, August, September, and then snows again. They're not talking snow on the ground. They're talking about ability to ski down the slopes, which requires a vast amount of snow, not just a dusting. So how much accumulation has to get on there, and how early do those snows need to start to get 200 plus days of skiing in? Talk about the records. I'm happy to do that. What's that? Alta ski area, 903 inches of snow. And this is the most snow. And the runoff still, by the way, for those experts that told us that California was going to be in a drought forever and we'd probably have to move our agriculture, and, you know, human cause is we're causing the 1,000-year drought in California. Suddenly there's so much snowpack that every single reservoir is so full that they're letting the water out so it doesn't overtop the dams and just letting it flow in the ocean. It's coming in at that rate off the snowpack melt. Still in July. That's how much water's back. Everything is at 100% plus capacity. But those experts 2 years ago told us that we were going to have another, longest, biggest drought, and people are going to have to move out of California. And these are the same people that are still getting news headline coverage. Unacceptable. Let's talk about nobody talks about Greenland. Not until this week. Why not? Because you see that blue line, that extended, it was gaining ice all the way through June. It's finally just started melting this week in July, a full month past the normal beginning of the melt season. And you see that straight line drop off right there in the top chart? That matches up with that X flare as it arrived to the Earth. Now, since that solar particulate has passed us, look what's happening. The ice is gaining again right here, beginning again. So you have to think that there's some solar influence in higher latitudes. If we had radio communication blackout and knockouts because of that same flare, do you think higher latitudes in the northern hemisphere would have had some anomalies with heat? I think they would too. Now, Greenland shows us something magnificent happening. This should be a #1 headline too. Like, look how much ice is gaining back on Greenland, but it doesn't fit the narrative of the melt, so you'll never hear about it. That blue line on the bottom chart there is screaming high above the averages. So if you look at the mean averages, that gray line in the middle from 1981 to 2010, when temperatures were cooler, by the way, over the 30-year average, that's how much ice was gained, and just follow the line, and it comes into the melt season and goes back out. Snow starts, winter comes, it gains ice. We come into summer, it melts off, and you get that. That's the curve. Well, look how much it's not curving now. If you want to talk about records, they gained 100 gigatons, during the melt season in June. The extremes are trying to deflect you away from. The changes in the atmosphere are happening now because of the Hunga Tonga eruption and the ice crystal clouds in the mesosphere. Talking about temperatures is one thing. You can talk about that until you're blue in the face. But the reality is that bending atmospheric patterns with the jet streams and cloud cells are affecting food production globally. And just a snippet of, this is from the beginning of the month here, and we're not too far into it. Flash floods sweep Lahore, record rainfall across Pakistan. They're getting about triple the amount of rain for a year in a month. So this happened in Afghanistan also last year. From 2018, 19, 20, 21, Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iran are showing increases in rainfall. That is a cycle. Do you tell me this cradle of civilization in the Indus Valley was bone dry? Land of milk and honey in Babylonia, Sumeria, what we know today as Iraq and Iran, that area, Babylonia, gardens. The shift comes and goes through time. Do you think they could cultivate and have a vast society in a bone-dry desert? Nope. They call them cradles of civilization because conditions were so perfect with rainfall, temperature, and agriculture that a civilization could begin to bloom from those two spots. Indus Valley and Babylonia. The Sumerian areas. Oh, and historic June heat followed by record-breaking June rains, or July rains, in Queensland, Australia. Unprecedented rainfalls. Again, Hunga Tonga eruption ejected 10% more moisture into the atmosphere. And we're starting to see it coming down in a lot of places. How about record-breaking rains and icy blasts also hit Queensland? It was such a vast event that 2 news headlines came out about it, because it was such an all-encompassing, record-breaking, wow, this is an insane event, where they might still confirm to get the record cold temperatures in Indonesia north of Cape York because of this same event. Hopefully, in the next day or so, they'll be able to confirm it. Right now, it's unconfirmed. Storm Polly, atmospheric cavitation, biggest storm, strongest storm ever in the Netherlands. Knocked down 100-year-old trees, but remember in the 1600s, vast fleets were sunk by these same types of storms. 400-year difference, grand solar minimum. You know, so those trees are only 100 years old. They could withstand a 100-year storm. If there was 400 or 500-year-old trees, I'd like to see if those are still standing. They probably are. Record-breaking rainfall, Western Honshu. A year's worth of rain in a month, actually within a week, same. And then if we go to the destructive derecho, 1 million acres of U.S. crops were wiped out, corn, because of sideline winds that we saw a couple years ago also, 500,000 people without power. So these are atmospheric cavitations that they don't really, you know, in the mainstream media want you to gravitate toward what's causing all the wind anomalies. They just want to keep you focused on the temperature. They can't control the jet streams and cloud cells. That's not a good sell for a global tax. Hot temperatures are, provided they're in the correct place for the temperature stations, which we'll talk about when we come back from the break. Temperature stations are in parking lots now. Temperature stations are near outflows of air conditioning units without hot air blowing onto them. The temperature station markings where they are have given us false readings of heat islands, which have increased these temperatures. So you have to take this with a grain of salt, all these record temperatures that we're seeing. I'll dissect that when we come back after the break.